Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Bloomfield. In one of the next slides, I'll talk more about myself, but thank you for joining us today. And today we are going to talk about digital risk, protecting your most important assets. So once again, I am Mike Bloomfield. I'm the president geek of Techie Geek. So what's the agenda for today? Today's session, we're going to do quickly who we are. We're going to talk about how a compromised credential can lead to a data breach. And then we're going to talk about what do cyber criminals actually do with these credentials once they are obtained. So we're going to discuss that. We're going to talk about the current landscape of threats for small businesses and how it's constantly evolving. And then we're going to talk about action steps that you can do now to educate your employees and create a culture of cybersecurity. So I'm Mike Bloomfield. I am the president geek of Techie Geek. We are a managed service provider based here in Staten Island, New York. We've been in business. We will be celebrating our 9-year anniversary in January. We are a team of 9 and we're constantly growing. We currently have 2 open job recs open. So looking to pass the 10 employee mark in the next 2 to 3 months. Consistently, we have been on what's known as the Channel Futures 501 MSP, which lists us as one of the top 501 MSPs in the world. And this year we were listed on the Next Gen 101, which means we were selected as one of the top 101 in the world globally of next generation MSPs that are paving the future of how future MSPs will follow in our model. I have a passion for superheroes and IT. I guess you could tell superheroes and our pop culture when you look behind me. This is not a Zoom background. This is real. Silver Surfer's with us today watching over. So who's Techie Geek? Think of Techie Geek as your outsourced IT superheroes. That's exactly what we are. We're here to protect your business universe from the villains that are around. And these villains today are the hackers. Oops, sorry, I hit the wrong button. So how do we do this and what do we do? Basically, we monitor and ensure your environment 24/7, 365 to identify issues or breaches immediately. And our job is to act faster than the flash and to get those resolved. If you look at this picture here that we have, that's our mascot, Troubleshoot. He's part of our team and he's beating the flash. We're faster than the flash. That's our goal. So here's something to keep in mind, because this is super scary to me. That this was what was by an IBM study in 2020. Attackers had access to a victim's environment for over 200 days before they were discovered. So what does that mean? That means that right now in your environment, on your computer, you might have a hacker sitting there with access to your network and you have no idea. 200 days. Imagine if everything you were doing, everything you were typing, every website you go to, every password you type in for 200 days was being captured. Every email you're emailing is being monitored. Well, that's the reality, that hackers have access on average. So depending on the study, it ranges from 120 days to 200 days. To me, that's still too long. Whether it be 120 days, that's 4 months. A hacker could be in your environment for 4 months. So that's a scary thought. Keep that in mind. So, how many of your clients' personal private information is saved within your computers? So in New York, under the New York Shield Act, they consider anything that makes a person identifiable. So that could be an address, a birth date, driver's license number, anything that's unique to that individual is considered PI data, private information. And my guess is that many of you have this type of data existing on your computer systems within your business. So how many of you would be in serious trouble if that information was compromised or stolen? And I don't want to hear anyone, because I do occasionally, I'll be with a prospect. They're like, oh, if I got hacked, I don't care. I could rebuild. What about all this personal data stored on your computer systems? If a hacker's gained access to this, every single one of you would be in serious trouble, whether it be business reputation, whether it be liability, cyber insurance companies coming after you, credit monitoring, the ability in New York with the New York Shield Act that you have to report on that, provide credit monitoring, whether it be you close your business down. When we talk about statistics, if businesses that get hit with ransomware and lose access to their data for 1 week, 74% of those businesses close down within 6 months. So let's imagine you got hit with ransomware, you lose access to your data for a week. You have basically a 3 in 4 chance of closing down within 6 months. That's scary. And I keep hitting this wrong button. I'm going to move this keyboard over. So how are these breaches happening? So this is always comes the big one. Well, how are these breaches happening? And I just want to pull up, I'm going to pull up on my side the chat. So if anyone has any questions, I'm going to monitor the chat as well. So please feel free to drop them in there and or the Q&A, just so I have that. Okay. So how are these breaches happening? 17% of attacks are occurring through a business email compromise. 7% are a malicious insider. That's someone in your office who works for you that is malicious. 16% is a supply chain attack. So what is a supply chain attack? A supply chain attack is when, maybe you use Adobe Acrobat and a hacker hacks the Adobe Acrobat installer. You get the installer, which you think is an update to Adobe Acrobat because it came from Adobe, but the actual provider was hacked. So at the supply chain, they hacked in, and now you've loaded the virus in. And those are ever increasing. That's something that's scary, but you keep hearing about that. The major July 4th attack that occurred to 1,500 businesses globally for the largest ransom in history at $70 million was considered a supply chain attack. Even if that software vendor said it was not, that was considered a supply chain attack. Phishing. Phishing is, we all deal with that every day. If you open email, you're seeing phishing constantly. 19% is cloud misconfiguration. That's someone that signed up for a cloud service, whether it be a server, whether it be years ago, believe it was Netflix or LinkedIn, I can't remember which one, accidentally had a user database that was public access. That's a cloud misconfiguration, 19% of that. 19% are compromised credentials. That means your credentials were compromised. You had either provided them through a phish, maybe LinkedIn was hacked and you've used that same password on every other website. So now you have compromised credentials on the dark web, and we're going to talk a lot about that today. And then 8% is other. That's your viruses, your Trojans, your worms that come through other ways. So, but if you look at that, if we take 17% for business email and 14% for phishing, right there you have 31% that comes right through potential email. That's, that's scary. Okay. So the threat to all businesses, these are 9 ways your employees' work credentials can lead to a breach. These are just some examples of websites that employees may use their work email to register, as well as potentially use the same password across services. You have an H&R, you have ADP, Paychecks, you have Yahoo there, Salesforce, Zoho, Expedia, you get the list. But let's imagine if your employee uses the same email, work email, and password for LinkedIn on social media, and LinkedIn has a breach, and now they get those credentials. Well, it's not a hacker sitting there typing away trying to gain control. It's a computer program that the hackers have created that will now utilize those credentials and attempt to log in and then notify a hacker, hey, we have a successful login. Now go do your magic. So they use the same credentials for LinkedIn. Well, what happens if those same credentials they use for LinkedIn that are now on the dark web allow them to also access the company's Salesforce page? And now the hacker has access into the Salesforce page, the CRM, the whole workflow, all private business data. Well, that's what happens. So the threat to your business does not necessarily lie within your walls. And that's, it's a business owner. So yeah, I'm going to skip that one. So let's move on. Okay. All right. So 2021. Well, where are we going with this? Well, now the move in the security world is zero trust. So what exactly is zero trust? Because you're going to hear this a lot more. And it's a model that we have implemented as well for the past couple of months since about 2020. But this is going to be further and further on any real IT provider is going to be pushing you to zero trust. So think about zero trust this way. When you go to bed at night, you shut your front door and you lock your front door. You don't go to bed with your front door open. Why not? Because you want to keep a burglar or someone that should not be in your office out. You don't want to wake up from your bed to look at someone standing above you and be like, hi, you shouldn't be here. Please leave my house. Well, that's how security in computers has been up until now. Antivirus software and getting hackers out was after the fact. We basically, for a virus program to work, a virus scan to work, it had to allow the virus to open and run to detect this is a virus and now stop the virus. Well, with zero trust, you're only allowing the right people in. You're only allowing them to securely access what they should access. Only the right machines can have access. They need to have the right privilege. And then we're only allowing the applications that should be run to be run. So what does that mean? We are building whitelist zero trust policies for a business to only allow the applications to run that should run within that business. If you're a architect, we're only allowing, the Microsoft Office suite, the Adobe suite, the AutoCAD suite, and whatever else your business requires. So if an employee goes and tries to accidentally maybe gets an email that says, hey, click here and download to run a file, if that file hasn't been approved on the whitelist, it won't even run. With zero trust, you are basically assuming everyone has been compromised. Compliance is dictating the security and access management, and you are only allowing those that should run to be run. So this is the future of IT in 2021 and on. So compliance and privacy laws are now also hitting small businesses. Europe with Gdpr, this was a big story about 3 years ago. They set the bar. And in GDPR's first year, there were 144,000 complaints against, and the enforcement found about 89,000 data breaches recorded. So within the first year within Europe, 89,000 data breaches were recorded under GDPR. Then ISO IEC 27000 came and began providing some guidance around this. And it's widely known for providing requirements to keep assets secure. So here in New York, we are now seeing what's the New York Shield Act. And this made it sweeping. And New York was really the first state, along with now California, to implement basically regulations around IT security. This was effective March 2020. And what it does is it requires companies to adopt a security program to reduce the risk of a data breach. Basically, you have to have a cybersecurity program in place within your business by March 21st, 2020. So how many of you here have that in play? Okay, so if you don't have that in play, you are basically not meeting the minimum requirements of a regulation that was put in by the state. And that doesn't mean your business has to be based in New York. New York Shield covers any business entity that does work for any New York resident. So keep that in mind. So the dark web is real. We always hear about, well, what's the dark web? So the web that you use every day is the World Wide Web. It's the open web. It's very public. There's many, many web browsers to access it. It's not really regulated, but sites can be taken down if they need to be by hosting providers, if they don't need meet guidelines of the web hosts who are hosting them. But that is the World Wide Web. Really easy to get to, right? You can get to the World Wide Web from your cell phone, your laptops, your Apple Watches, all over. So the dark web, you need a special browser to get to. And then once you access the dark web, your IP and your name goes on a list that's monitored by the government, because really the dark web is a place where bad things happen, and you really shouldn't be there. So this is an example. This is a real dark web site that's out there that basically is a database of French passport scans and a copy of a utility bill. And you could see that they're selling this on the dark web for a hefty price of $13.21. So imagine if your passport was stolen and your utility bill and was sold on the dark web for $13 for a hacker to make, and now someone can now utilize that information to steal your identity and do whatever else with it. Well, this is what the dark web's for. And we're going to see a lot more examples of this, so you actually see what's on the dark web. So here is a German ID, both sides valid, by the way, for $6.60. It's not very expensive to start compiling information that could help a cyber criminal begin committing identity fraud. So here's a snapshot from the dark web. So this one instructs buyers to also search for social security numbers online so you can gain access to their bank account. So this is a USA business bank account and routing numbers, perfect for ACH fraud. Well, that's really nice of them, right? They're basically telling you this is perfect to commit ACH fraud. And it's telling you that this is a cost $30 euro. So, you know, not much more in American. And telling you to go ahead and search for social security numbers, because with the social security numbers and the ACH, you can even do a lot more harm. Wow. Kansas voter database, 1.8 million voters. This is a database of voter registration data. And you can purchase this as long with pretty much anything else you want on the dark web. And what was the price on this one? I don't have it here. It wasn't on this one, but not even your voter registration information is safe, unless you, of course, you believe it's Kansas only that is being hacked. So here's someone selling the largest known data dump. So this was one of the largest data dumps in history. It has 773 million records. And these markets are basically like eBay. You see, they have, the hacker has sold what their communication rating is, the quality of what they're selling. So this has over 200 views. He's selling 773 million records of data for $10. Wow. Wonder how hackers get involved. So, and by the way, if you're here, if you're collecting unemployment and you're looking for a job, the dark overlord is hiring, and you could become a cyber criminal and make about $63,000 a month. So they're looking for designers and system engineers. You would have to have 10 years of experience to bring innovative approaches to hacking. You have to think outside the box, but you would get an annual salary of about $762,000. Of course, it's a 90-day probationary period. They got to make sure you're legit. And you're going to get an increase to about over $1 million after 2 years, contingent on positive performance reviews, of course. You know, so if you want to work for a hacker organization, they're out there, and you could potentially make over $1 million. Oh, and by the way, hacking and ransomware groups is over a $2 billion business in 2020. You know, huge profit. And then hackers are posting verified Zoom accounts on the dark web. So if you remember, on April 1st, a popular dark web posted a link to a collection of 352 compromised Zoom accounts. And these links included email addresses, passwords, meeting IDs, host keys, type of Zoom account. Most were personal, but not all. But if you remember, This was right around when COVID first started, and there was a lot around Zoom and going to remote workforce and what needed to be done to protect yourself. But again, all on the dark web. And then phishing kit. So are you looking for a project? You actually could go and find information and step-by-step directions on how to make an efficient phishing kit. It's so easy that it even includes the necessary code. They give you the code that and tell you, hey, copy and paste this here and do this. They give you step-by-step directions to make a phishing kit. So what does a phishing kit look like? Well, if you notice on the right-hand side, this is a legitimate Facebook login page. If you notice on the left-hand side, this would be a page that you would access after clicking a link from a phishing email that you think is legit, an email that comes through you. Hey, you're a Facebook, you have a new message, click here to view it, and you would click it. But you have to be very vigilant on what's at the top. Obviously, this has the lock and it's facebook.com. If you notice, this one we blocked out what the URL was, but it was /facebook.html. This is a phish. It looks identical. The goal is you're going to come in here, you're going to put your Facebook email, you're going to put your Facebook password, you're going to select signing. A lot of times the hackers are really nice and are actually going to log you into Facebook so you don't even realize you just fell for a phish. And those credentials are going to go into a database that they're now going to use to attempt to hack you and see if you use those same credentials elsewhere, which most of you do. Most of you, you're going to use that same password and email everywhere. Stop doing that immediately, by the way. Here's another example, eBay. So on the left-hand side, this is an actual eBay login. And on the right is one that was made for a phishing kit. Can you tell the difference? I can tell the difference because I'm very vigilant and always look at the top. But if you're very quick, if you're in a rush, image-based, these are identical. Now, there are software packages out there, one that I have with all my clients, that every email that comes in goes through image-based artificial intelligence processing. And it will actually look for a link and say, no. This link is made to look like eBay, but it's not eBay, and this is a phish, and remove it from the mailbox. So there are software solutions out there. However, they are not perfect. Nothing is perfect. So that's why employee training is super important. We're going to talk through that. But there are ways to minimize your risk. And I did notice a little that, the real page had a line with the OR. They were missing that on this one, but would you have noticed that? Hey, look, why not? Let's even try Phish USAA. Again, left one is the real one. The right one is the fake one. Pretty identical to me. And phishing attacks are surging. This is an old article from April 6th. The FBI anticipates a rise in business email compromise schemes related to COVID pandemic. So they were saying this was going to happen back in April. Here we are a year and a half later. Think of how many fake phishing emails you got trying to offer you free PPE equipment, trying to offer you free masks, free information. That the government knew this was going to happen, and the cybercriminals did not disappoint. That it was a huge increase in phishing over the past year and a half, and a lot of it was related to COVID and PPE and government grants and different things. And this one looks like, so this is some examples of a COVID, phishing attack. This one looks like it's coming from a human resource department. But you can see we've highlighted the key indicators. These are the things that you and your employees should look out for. So this was a fake email address. It came from HR at company_domain. The salutation was too generic, all, right? Typically, you're going to address people individually. You're going to know there's an urgency, acknowledge the policy before. In phishing, they're trying to make that urgency. It's the same way when a scammer calls you on the phone. they're going to be like, you need to talk to us now, or we're going to open up an investigation into you. They're trying to get that urgency to get you moving. Check for fraudulent links. And how could you check for a link? If you hover over a link within an email, that'll give you and show you the link before you actually click it. And you do have to be careful what you click, because there are viruses and exploits that could be loaded to your computer without you doing anything other than clicking on a link and loading that website. So it is extremely important that you hover and be vigilant and just don't click around. So stop, make sure the company details are correct, but also look out for verbiage, standard verbiage from your organization. Here's another example. So this one came from who-pc.com. So I guess it's the World Health Organization. However, that's fake. It's too generic. Again, dear sir, there's that sense of urgency. This little measure can save you. Again, there was a fraudulent link that you could have checked. Poor grammar and breathing. Breathing is spelled wrong. I'm going to assume if the World Health Organization is emailing, I'm going to assume they're at least spelling. So again, unusual sender. How often would you get email directly from a doctor to your work email? So you got to be vigilant, and it's important to train your staff to be vigilant. Here's another example. Coronavirus outbreak in your city. This is an emergency. Look, that urgency is right there in the subject. Again, you have a fake email address. This is supposedly coming from the CDC. You also have a link that if you hovered over, it was not actually taking you to cdc.gov. And notice the website was made to look like it was coming from the CDC, which is cdc.gov. However, if you came up, it was cdc-gov.org. Hackers and cybercriminals love to purchase domains that are very similar to domains they're going to go after. So they might go after Facebook and buy Facebook with C&E flip-flop. Now, a lot of bigger organizations have gone out and bought misspellings, but they might buy Amazon with a zero, and this is what they try. Again, very generic. Dear sir, madam. There's that urgency immediately. There's that poor grammar, misspelling right in their title. And when you did click this link, it brought you up to a Outlook phishing. So they were banking on the fact that you use in your organization Office 365, Microsoft 365, and you were going to provide them with your username and password to get logged in, and take that and put that into a phishing database. And again, it happens on the phone, and it also happens through text messages, right? How many of you are now getting text messages? This was related to a UK stimulus payment. And again, there's that urgency. They follow these same types of guides no matter where they are. There's always that sense of urgency. There's always going to be a typically bad grammar, and these links are not real links. Like this is a link to a UK COVID-19.web redirect. You have to be extremely careful. So here are some steps that we're going to provide you, for things to look for good email hygiene. So the CDC recommends you wash your hands for 20 seconds, right? We're going to recommend you take 20 seconds to review each email you get before you act on it. So first off, watch for overly generic content and greetings, right? They love to send large batches of emails with dear value customer, sir, madam, look for that. Know that the person who maybe is they're fake emailing you, how do they normally address you? 2, examine the entire email address. The first part of an email address may be legitimate. It's the last part that might be off by a letter or a number. And also, I can make it look like I emailed anyone else, but that reply address might be different. So you have to, don't look just for the name, look for the actual email address. 3, look for urgency or demanding unusual actions, right? If the email is telling you to go to Target and get gift cards, scratch it off and give it to them so they don't report you, that's a red flag. Carefully check over every link is number 4. So move your mouse over the link, see if there's a detection matches where the email implies you're going to be taking. Make sure it's not it doesn't show one thing, and when you hover, it's different. Make sure it looks to be a legitimate link. 5, notice misspellings, incorrect grammar, and odd phrasing. 6, check for secure websites. This is a huge one. You never want to put your credit card information, your passwords, any private information in a website that is not secure. How do you notice a secure website? Well, it'll be HTTPS. The last S stands for secure. And there should be a lock at the far left when you're on a website. And don't click on attachments right away. Make sure, attachments could have a virus. Well, hopefully your email filtering has virus scanning, other levels of multiple layers to protect your organization, but you need to be careful in case one slips through. So you never want to open an attachment unless you're expecting attachment and you know who it's from. Well, you also have to protect your employees. So how do you protect your employees? So major events like the coronavirus pandemic created new opportunities for cyber criminals to exploit, but smart defenses don't let them in. So these are some tips that we're going to provide you to help keep your systems and data safer in these uncertain times. So 1, get the facts. Stay away from the rumor mill and use information from reliable sources to make business decisions in chaotic times. Make sure you have the facts and you sit down. 2, think twice before clicking the links. You want to make sure staffers are on the lookout for suspicious links that can lead to ransomware. 3, you want to be suspicious of expected attachments. If you're not expecting attachment, don't open it. It goes by that if it's too good to be true, it's probably too good. You want to 4, automate compliance. Human intervention, human process, unfortunately fails. So you want to automate this compliance as much as possible. 5, you need to protect passwords. So you have to encourage your employees to have safe password practices, like using a password manager and not writing them on sticky notes, right? Passwords should not be on Post-it notes. The first place we would check would be underneath your keyboard. Notice I have no passwords. With a Post-it note that's on your monitor, probably not a good spot for your password. And most of you don't probably even realize that most break-ins to a business, a physical break-in, is to go and look for that password sheet that you printed out and put in a notebook in your desk. So your desk is also not a good spot to have passwords. Number 10, swapping around. Number 6, be aware of strange networks. Most staffers are aware of the dangers log in from unsecured public Wi-Fi. If you're out, you should think twice before joining a public Wi-Fi. Why? Because hackers love to broadcast public Wi-Fis to get you to join their network, give you internet so you think you're getting something, and in reality, you're on their network and they're now working to affect your device. So be careful of public Wi-Fi, and if you ever do join a public Wi-Fi, utilize a VPN or an anonymizer to basically create a secure connection so that the hackers can't see everything you're doing. 7, use two-factor authentication. So multi-factor authentication, two-factor authentication is super important, and you should be using it on every important account in 2021. So what is 2FA? 2FA is when you go to log on to your bank and you get a text message or a pop-up, you have an authenticator app that you have to approve. Even if your password is out there, they can't get in. I could give you the password to my email right now and you can't get into it because you don't have my authenticator app to get in for that second level approval. 2FA should be on every single important site, every bank, your email, anything important should be 2FA protected. Okay, 8, keep an eye on the bad guys. Monitor the dark web to watch for your data. So it's important. Once it's on the dark web, it's not knowing, there's no getting it off the dark web. It's knowing it's on the dark web so you can react to that. So you say, okay, this password's on the dark web. It's knowing that I have to not use this password anywhere else. 9, stay current on the threats. You need to work with a responsive partner who's going to help and notify you of today's challenges. This is ever changing. Hackers are ahead of us. You know, if you think about it, they're offering to pay other hackers and employees, like we spoke about earlier, up to $1 million a year. They're getting some of the best. You know, now, of course, most of the hackers are overseas, but you're getting excellent engineers and software developers who are working, and they're kind of trying to be a step ahead of us. So it's important that you're working with a responsive partner that is up to date and is going to work with you on such changes, such as the framework of a zero trust, like we spoke about. And then 10, you know, ask for help. Consult a security expert to plan effective strategies and get innovative solutions, right? Let you focus on your business and let the experts focus on what we do best. And that's why you partner with a managed service provider, is because it's our job to help minimize your risk. So how do you protect your business from a cyber breach? So we gave you 10 great tips on, again, how to protect your employees. But now I'm going to give you some more tips and on items on how you can protect and make yourself familiar in order to properly protect your business. So let's use ransomware. With ransomware, us IT professionals wish there was a silver bullet. There isn't, and I'm sorry to break that to you. There is not one single thing that you can implement that will make your business invincible to being hit with ransomware. It's a whole process and multi-layered approach that must be implemented to help it. Just like when you're at if you think of a prison, a prisoner is within a guard cell. Within the guard cell is typically a dormitory. Then they have cell blocks. Then they have, you know, different buildings and campuses and SCAD towers and different levels of security doors. Another outer fence, right? Why is this? So that if a prisoner gets through maybe 2 or 3 of these fences or security measures, he'll get caught up by one. Now, what happens? Every once in a while, a prisoner manages to get out, right? Well, your IT infrastructure is going to be the same way. You need to implement a multi-layer approach, but no matter what, it's no longer if you'll be hacked, it's now when will I be hacked? And it's having the proper process in place that if you are breached, how you respond to that breach in a timely manner and how you minimize that risk. So biggest tip to you that I can give you, if you have any IT provider that tells you they can make you hack, you know, never be hacked, you'll never have a breach, you never have to worry, run as fast as you can because they are lying to you. So these are steps and the multiple layers that we recommend you put in place for your business to help minimize your risk. So security assessment. When you go to a doctor, you can't go to a doctor and just start getting medicine. You can't ask for medicine, right? You don't go to the doctor and say, "Doc, give me this." You go to a doctor and they assess you. And from there, they tell you, here's what we need to do. Well, it's no different. In your IT infrastructure, the first thing that you need to do is your baseline is you need to have a security assessment. That allows the baseline to figure out what your existing vulnerabilities are and to address them accordingly. When was your last security assessment? If you can't even answer that, or if it was longer than a year, you know, that's something you want to address immediately because you may not even know how bad your environment and infrastructure really is. Number 2, we spoke about a lot about phishing emails and how these hackers are getting in. It was over 31%. And they say that number is even higher, that most come through email. So it's important that you have multiple layers of protection to protect email. Just having Google or Microsoft 365 is not a filtering. They're letting everything come to your mailbox. Do they do some junk filtering? Of course they do, at the most basic level. Our clients, all of their email goes through 2 different filtering levels. We go through 2 different products that are designed, again, multiple layers. The first one does the most chunk, and then it gets put to a second level where we do the artificial intelligence to check for phishing sites and see if there's other fish that we might have missed on the first layer. Number 3, passwords. We spoke about this. You have to apply security policies on your network. You have to deny or limit USB file storage access. You have to enable enhanced password policies. You have to set user screen timeouts. You have to limit user access, and you have to use a password management tool. Every one of my passwords is different. Why is that? Because I use a password management tool. I remember one password getting, and that then logs me in. If my password's on the dark web, I don't have to panic and say, whoa, are they going to gain access to all these accounts? Because every account has a different password. Next is security awareness. You need to train your team. We keep speaking about that. Your team, your employees are your weakest link. So it's important that you have a done-for-you solution that trains your employees both on an annual basis and then on what's known as a micro-level weekly basis on new strategies, new tips, and making them aware of the new threats we spoke about. Then is advanced endpoint security is number 5. So it's no longer virus scan. If anyone comes to you and says, oh, we're going to get you this virus scan software, antivirus, that's no. Antivirus is like 2000. You're now in 2021. It's advanced endpoint security. The tool set that we use at our clients has artificial intelligence that monitors how you use your PC and addresses and changes accordingly, and watches for changes in the variances of how you use your PC to see if it's a hacker doing it. Pretty scary. I do have a Skynet Terminator life-size bust out in the break room. So hopefully the endpoint protection doesn't come after us, but no guarantees. So a couple more statistics. 1 in 5 small businesses will suffer a cyber breach this year, 1 in 5. So think of how many people on this webinar right now will suffer a cyber breach this year. 81% of all breaches happen to small and medium-sized businesses. And here's the worst part. 97% of those breaches could have been prevented by today's technology. The reason these breaches are occurring at such a rapid pace is because business owners are not putting the processes and the policies and the practice in place to protect their organization. All right, so let's finish up these tips. So number 6, multi-factor authentication. We spoke about that. Super important. You need to have multi-factor authentication. Again, I could give you my password to my email and you can't get into my email. Why? Because I have MFN. Number 7, computer updates. You need to keep operating system and all your programs up to date. Why? Because software manufacturers are constantly finding breaches and exploits in their own software or holes or vulnerabilities that they're patching. You need to continuously update your software. Again, working with a managed service provider, you don't have to worry about that. We worry about that. But these are tips that you could do yourself. But again, when you work with a provider, we're checking all these boxes for you. So quick note, last week, Apple released a critical update to all of their iOS devices. And if those with that latest version, which I believe was 14.3, and I'm sorry because I don't have it right in front of me, it was a week ago, but you need to update your iOS device if you have not since last week. There was a critical update, critical vulnerability found in the iMessage framework that allowed hackers to take control and monitor your device simply by sending you a message. You didn't have to click anything. All they had to do was send you a message. So make sure you update your iOS devices. Excuse me. Number 8, dark web research. It's knowing in real time what passwords and accounts have been posted on the dark web will allow for you. So we scan the dark web for all our clients and alert them should we ever see them on the dark web and give them that information. We're at 5, so 6, 7, 8. Number 9, firewall. So first off, if you are a business owner and you're using the firewall provided to you by Verizon or Spectrum, please throw it out. We need to implement a real business class firewall. And it's super important to turn on intrusion detection and prevention features. And these log files need to then go to a SIEM, which monitors and alerts on them. So if your IT provider doesn't know what those are, please call us immediately. Encryption. So whenever possible, you have to encrypt files at rest, especially in motion, think of email, and especially on mobile devices. So what does that mean? So you have a password on your laptop, and you take your laptop and you leave your laptop somewhere. Without having your hard drive encrypted in a manner that you know it's encrypted, I could take that laptop, pull your hard drive out, plug it into another computer, and without your password, gain access to every file on that hard drive. So there's software that's known in Microsoft as BitLocker that allows you to encrypt the drive. So even if I pull that drive out, I can't access it. It's the same type that a ransomware does. They're encrypting your device, but when you encrypt the device, there's a private and a public key. If someone steals your encrypted drive, they don't have your private key, they can't access it. And that's just one example, right? Your mobile devices are encrypted the same way. But even files on your environment, if you have files that have social security numbers, when a hacker goes into your software, gains control of your system, they run specialized software that tells them, hey, here's Excel documents, PDFs with the social security numbers or credit card numbers it looks for. Those need to be encrypted even at rest to prevent a hacker from gaining access. So encryption is another very important tool. And then the most important, which really on this one, is the business continuity. I don't even call it backup, it's business continuity. So with a business continuity solution, you're preventing and planning to prevent and minimize downtime. We take backups for our clients during business hours as often as every 5 minutes. If you were hit with ransomware now, we would roll back to 5 minutes before you got hit with ransomware and get you up and running within a matter of 10 minutes. It's to minimize downtime. It costs more to your business to be under a ransomware attack or be in a breach and not have access to your systems than to just close your doors and send your employees home. So business continuity is the prevention of downtime. And it's super important. These are just steps. And then it goes to an IT stack. What is the security stack, right? On our clients, with our advanced security package, which is the only one we offer today, it's a lot more than just endpoint protection. It's endpoint protection, it's advanced DNS protection with productivity monitoring, it's ransomware detection and prevention agent, it's a zero trust agent, it's privilege agent, we have an active breach monitoring agent where we actually have a team of ex-employees that used to work for the NSA that monitor the computers to watch to see if a hacker has a foothold. This way, to prevent a hacker from being in your environment for 120 days, we get notified right away, hey, there's a hacker with a foothold, let's get them out. So there's a full security stack, these multiple layers. And then while you're here, thank you for joining us today, we want to give you 1 month of free cybersecurity training for you and your staff. So you simply have to go to bulletproof.techiegeek.com and let me throw that into the chat. And you could sign up and get free security training for you and your staff. So thank you for joining us today. I really hope that you learned something, and be sure to take advantage of the free training and follow us on social media for more tips. And we'd love to give techie tricks as we would. And we like to be that IT superhero. So, follow us at Techie Geek. And if you have any questions, please throw in either the Q&A or the chat. I'd love to answer it. I did have one. Please let them know that if law enforcement comes to seize your computer or data, demand a search warrant. That's very true. Don't just hand your computer off to law enforcement. You want to demand a search warrant. And if they get a subpoena, make sure you contact an attorney before you do anything. Don't just hand your device off. Thank you for that one, Kevin. Do we have any other questions? Please feel free to drop that into the chat. I'm happy to answer it. You could also reach me at mike@techiegeek.com. I'm going to throw that in there as well. So if you need to, if you have any questions, you want to email me. If you want to take the step to maybe get a security assessment and see where you really fall, please email me. Make sure you take advantage of that security training we're offering. And SCORE also wanted to thank you for attending. I believe John is still here and can jump up and talk about that. And I'm going to monitor the chat. If you do have any questions, just please drop them in there. And thank you very much.
Mike, thank you so much. I always find listening to you very helpful. There's so much, and it's so frightening as to what could happen. So I appreciate you giving us the time. I have been blocked from my video by the host, so if you could get me back on, maybe you could see my face, but then maybe you don't want to see my face. Although I did shave this morning just for you.
I am not the host, so I can't give
I know that. I know that.
I was just looking to see if I had host access, but I do not.
No,
and
you
I
don't.
do apologize for scaring everyone. That we tend to do that, and it's not really my intention, but unfortunately, you need some tough love. You need to know what's really possible out there. We have, and John, I'll give you some information to send out to all the attendees. We have a hacking demo that people could sign up and watch that basically shows how a hacker takes control of a business computer within 5 minutes and what they can do with it, including watching your webcam. And we do that in my conference room and just kind of demo that out. So we have a recording of that. And then I also have a recording that I love sharing on YouTube, was from a HackerCon. Yes, hackers have conventions in Vegas with hundreds of thousands of people attend, and not all hackers are bad. There's black hat hackers, there's white hat hackers. And what's the difference? Hackers work for companies. A white hat hacker is someone that actually does good. They're actually a hacker who looks to try to hack to give Microsoft, hey, we found this vulnerability, fix this before a black hat hacker takes advantage of it. So there's actually different, and then there's gray hackers who basically exactly what you would expect, teeter on both sides. A gray hat hacker is someone that does some bad stuff, but also does some good stuff. And what you find a lot of times is really good black hat hackers eventually get converted to white hat hackers because they get hacked, they hacking something, they get caught, and then they go, well, I'll help you. Can I work for you? And who better to work for you than someone that figured out how to destroy your infrastructure and get in? So a lot of times you see black hat hackers actually convert over the white hat. But in that sense, in HackerCon, we have a YouTube video that is from a documentary that is 10 minutes long that will scare you to the point you will never use a computer again. I'll be sure to send you that as well, because that's a great video to watch on social engineering, and it truly will scare you to never want to use a computer again.
Well, thank you again. Remember now, you will be receiving a copy of the video as well as the slides. So look for them. You may want to play this back again so that you could feel it a little easier. But Mike, you're tremendous. Thank you so much for presenting this to us today.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions that anyone would have before we sign off?
No, I'm not seeing anything
That
come
doesn't
through.
look like it.
No questions. That means I answered everything, so I did my job. But please, you have my sign up for the free security training, and my email is there. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email me, and I'll be happy to answer what I could and get yourself signed up for a security assessment. Even if it's not with me, make sure you get yourself a security assessment to know where you are.
That's greatly appreciated, Mike. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Okay. Have a good day, everyone.